Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtadar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to talk to you about the changing dynamics in the geoeconomics and geopolitics of the world. We see that Germany is looking towards India to stabilize its future, to essentially uh, protect itself from the uncertainties and the risks that over dependence on the United States or China has led to. Whereas Canada is adopting an entirely different strategy. It is reacting not just to the uncertainty that the United States has created, but it is also trying to respond to some of the, shall we say, the bullying and the aggressive attitude that the United States has demonstrated towards a neighbor, its biggest trading partner, and a very close ally. So I don't blame the Canadians if they think that they feel betrayed by Donald Trump. So it's looking for a stabilizing force, and so it's turning towards China. So in the past few days, in fact, towards the beginning of this week, we have seen that the German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, visited India and met with Modi. And Mike Carney, went to China, met with Xi Jinping, and they have they have essentially made some new deals, signed new memorandums of understanding, and have tried to develop an alternative pathways to security, to trade, to enrichment, to partnerships. So that's what I want to talk about. And clearly, American foreign policy is creating great opportunities for both India and China to increase their essentially trade partnerships with Europeans and those countries which now feel as if they cannot trust and rely on the United States. It has also given them clearly more geopolitical influence because countries like Germany and Canada are now looking more towards China and India than they did in the past. And remember, Germany, and Canada are both G7 countries. They're very important. They're also members of NATO. And for them to start investing in developing a strategic partnership is, shall we say, a very significant shift in global geopolitics. So I'm going to briefly, in this short conversation, I intend to do three things. I want to summarize for you all basically what is driving countries to look for alternative pathways. I mean, I can say it in one word, Donald Trump, but I want to elaborate that a bit more. The second thing that I want to do is to talk about the India-Germany, Modi's visit. What did they agree upon? Is there substance to it, or is it just style? And then Canada and China, what have they agreed? I think one agreement that they have made is going to have a significant impact on Western economies as well as for China. So basically, what Donald Trump has done is he has created both geopolitical and geoeconomic uncertainties. He has used tariffs as a weapon, as a magic wand, no matter what he wants. If he wants a cup of tea delivered to him from room service, he says, I will tariff this hotel if I don't get tea in 5 minutes. And if he wants to go and do anything, no matter what he wants to do, tariff seems to be his go-to weapon. So he has used tariffs in such a way to essentially dismantle the global economy, which was so globalized, by creating protectionism as a major policy option. And so the rising walls protecting domestic economies is destroying globalization as well as the global economy and forcing countries to find new partners. From a geopolitical perspective, Donald Trump's support more for Russia, less for Ukraine, has upset the Europeans. Donald Trump's basically lukewarm approach now to the Quad has upset India. In addition to that, Donald Trump's overtures towards Pakistan has made India even more nervous. On top of that, Donald Trump tried to talk about a G2 with China, which also makes India more nervous because then India's significance in the Indo-Pacific diminishes if the US becomes much more aligned with China. This decision to go into Venezuela, the decision to continue with much more serious efforts to acquire Greenland is basically impacting more than anybody else the Europeans, because they feel that Donald Trump is now simply dismantling the so-called rule-based order from which they did benefit somewhat. And on top of that, their security depends on NATO, and they find that the United States is now a threat to NATO rather than the main underwriter of NATO. So this has created a tremendous uncertainty and insecurity in European and Western countries who are allies of the US. So they are looking for new partners. Their goals are slightly different, and that's why they have chosen different partners. Germany is looking for a long-term strategic diversification. What it wants to do is it wants a partner with which it can grow, not just in an economic sense, but also in matters of security and defense. And so one of the items that were on the agenda when MERS met with Modi in India just 3-4 days ago was to expand defense cooperation, but also co-production. And so they are having a dialogue about how Germany and India can get into co-production. There are no details. So one of the things that came out from the meeting were that from a strategic point of view, they sound very good. That, okay, we are going to have a joint production in defense area. But what are they going to develop together? Is Germany now going to join the Tejas project? Is Germany going to help redevelop BrahMos? Or what? Because India is still pursuing American jet engines for the Tejas 2 project that they have. They're still thinking buying Rafales from France. They're still considering buying Russian weaponry. So it's not very clear what agenda India and Germany have with regards to co-production. In defense, it sounds like a great idea, but it is probably too far away to be taken seriously at this moment. And then there's this talk of economic focus. In fact, when Schulz came to India, he said that my first top priority is going to be to ensure that the European Union's the bilateral trade agreement between India and will be his first priority, and it hasn't happened until now. And now MERS comes and says, okay, we are going to finalize that by the end of January 2026. So I guess in another 2 weeks, we should see there is an India-EU summit. So perhaps in that summit, they will finalize the bilateral trade agreement. We'll see what comes out of it. They are going to work on critical minerals, semiconductors, hydrogen, renewables, etc. This has become boilerplate. Everybody seems to be talking about the same things these days. But of course, there's always one extra thing when you're talking to India, and that is India always seeks visas for people to go and work there. So apparently, both Modi and MERS have agreed that Germany now seems to have a demographic problem. I thought the Germans were against immigrants, but apparently they have a demographic problem. So Germany is going to facilitate new Indians going over there in technology field, healthcare, to work in Germany, and more students will also go and study in Germany. But one real change that has happened right now is that Germany has kind of said that it will eliminate the requirement for transit visa for Indians who are traveling, say, to the US via Europe. I don't know whether Germany can do that unilaterally, because the visa that is required is Schengen visa. So if you're going to any European city, or if you're going through an European city and you have a passport which requires a visa, then you need Schengen visa. So I'm not sure whether Germany can unilaterally make that change and say Indians traveling through Europe need not have a Schengen visa if they're transiting through Germany. I don't know whether it is possible. I think it's not unless EU approves of it, but we will see what happens. So these are some of the things that they have agreed on. And I think there is more posturing going on, more trying to send a signal to Washington or to each other. A lot has been made by the Indian press that MERS chose to come to India before going to China. So the argument is that it looks as if Germany is trying to balance, or rather, I don't know how to put it, that it does not want to continue. It's looking for alternatives to reliance on the US, and rather than going straight up to China, it is choosing India because it perceives that a continued relationship with China is going to be very detrimental to it, even though most of the Japanese German companies manufacturing is actually located in China. So I don't know whether we should make a lot of this meeting of MERS coming to India before going to China or not, whether it is something phenomenally strategic and incredible achievement by Indian foreign policy. I don't understand that, but because, for example, if you remember, when America was imposing tariffs in August, there was this huge surprise when Trump announced 50% tariffs on India. And then a few weeks later, Prime Minister Modi decided to go to the SCO summit in China. And then there was all this photo ops with Putin and Xi Jinping, and that was seen as, oh my God, here's this brilliant response from India to America, and guess it was supposed to be a rebuttal to everything that Donald Trump is doing. Oh, well, nothing has happened. Donald Trump did not reduce the tariffs. Relations between India and the US has not improved. There was a lot of hype about those meetings. On top of that, America has just threatened to impose 25% more tariffs if India and other countries continue to trade with Iran. So all that photo ops that were taken in Tianjin city in China with Xi Jinping and Putin, I don't think that has had any geopolitical impact. And on top of that, India-China's relations today are not as good as they were during the SCO summit because of that episode of this woman who was traveling from UK to Japan via Shanghai, and she was detained because her passport says that she was born in Arunachal Pradesh, and China claimed that she was a Chinese citizen, not an Indian, and that kind of ruined whatever positive gains Prime Minister Modi's visit to China may have generated. So just visiting another country does not really mean that there's a significant shift in material reality, but nevertheless, there's some signaling going on, there's some discussions going on, so we will see what ultimately the Indo-German strategic partnership will result. They have been strategic partners for 25 years, and diplomatic relations have now been celebrated as 75 years. So we will see what happens. On the Canadian side, Mike Carney is desperately looking for new partners. He has even considered joining European Union. There's serious discussions. Technically, Canada is still part of the United Kingdom, and so King Charles of England is sort of head of state for Canada. So maybe Canada can use that as a leverage to say that, oh, we are like Greenland is to Denmark. Canada is to UK, so let us into European Union. Anyway, that's for the Canadians to figure a way out. They want to join the European Union because they feel betrayed, threatened, and alienated by the United States. So for the last 7-8 years, Canadian-China relations have not really been normal during Justin Trudeau's period. If you remember, Xi Jinping literally scolded Justin Trudeau at one of the G20 summits, then released the video which shows Trudeau humiliated by Xi Jinping, and then their relations, diplomatic relations, were downgraded, etc., etc. So now, basically, Mike Carney is going to restart or kickstart China-Canada relations. You could say that while Germany is trying to deepen Indo-German relations, that's what MERS was trying to do in India, to deepen India-German relations. What Carney is trying to do in China is to kickstart China-Canada relations, which were frozen in a way. So in 2024, the Canadians, following the US, imposed 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs. And I think before that, in 2023, Canada had bought about more than 40,000 China's electric vehicles from China. And then they imposed 100% tariffs, and that did hurt Chinese exports to Canada. But now In this particular degree trip, what Carney has done is signed a memorandum of understanding to reduce the tariffs on electric vehicles from 100% to just 6.5 or 6 point something percentage. So that's going to give China a massive boost, and I can tell you that they'll probably sell 50,000 cars this year alone in Canada. And that Trump is not very happy about that. He said the Canadians will regret that. But I think uh, for China, this is a great achievement. And it's also reaffirming the Chinese projection of itself as a more stabilizing force, and the US as a disruptor and China as stabilizer. So this particular repositioning is also a major development for China. And the poor Canadians, they are looking for a big brother, and they seem to have settled on China. There is not much. There's a lot more talk about. There's no discussion about defense agreements, etc., between Canada and China, but mostly collaboration on green energy, on financing, supporting each other diplomatically in multilateral institutions, and basically, you can say that the only two major things that have happened. One, you can see that Canada is now more inclined and leaning towards China as a reaction to its declining relationship with the US. And number two, that China has gained something significant. And that is really, I think, the biggest thing that has happened in both. Like, I can't point to something between India and Germany except to say that transit visas may have been, cancelled for Indians. So it'll really help a lot of Indians who are traveling through Europe. When I used to have my Indian passport, it used to be quite a pain. I had to go to Delhi. I had to go to DC to get a Schengen visa. And yeah, it used to be extra cost and extra pain. Now, because I'm an American, I just go through Europe whenever I want. I go through and to Europe whenever I want. So yeah, it will become a bit more convenient for Indians who are going to, say, Canada or US or UK and flying Lufthansa or airlines through Germany. I'm not sure whether the German permission will allow Indians to go through other European countries, like I said. But anyway, the world is changing rapidly. There is absolutely no doubt about it. And the fundamental reason for that is the way Donald Trump has rejigged, completely turned upside down American priorities, American foreign policies. Basically, he has said, I really don't care about my allies, my relations with Europe. There are certain things I want, and I will get them by hook or by crook. For example, he's now threatening to impose tariffs on anybody who supports Greenland or impedes America's attempts to acquire Greenland, which means that if he follows through on it, then he will be imposing more sanctions on Europeans, and we will see what happens there. So thank you for watching Conversations and liking this. And please like this video, press the bell icon, and share this with others. And if there are some interesting questions or comments, I'll be happy to answer them. This Saad Wahid is asking this question. He is, where is this question gone? Oops, oh, here it is. So Saad Wahid's question is, I'm from India. I am from, no, oh, he's from Bangladesh. I am from Bangladesh. India will not have good relations with its neighbors till it stops looking at them as lost territory. Till then, it will keep getting slapped around by even 10 times smaller. Well, I don't know about being slapped around. Countries, even if in the long run, Bangladesh will suffer more than India by completely ruining its relations with Bangladesh. I have written an article in The Diplomat where I talked, this was a few months after the Bangladesh regime change, you can say, or revolution, in which I said, yes, as we look forward to a new Bangladesh emerging, it will need India. There's no doubt about it. Bangladesh cannot be successful by being hostile to India. So that is something very clear. And in fact, for India, India needs to have good relations with all its neighbors, undoubtedly. You can't have so many enemies all around. I mean, right now, India has three countries that share borders with it who are not friendly, which is Pakistan, China, and Bangladesh. And that is a very dangerous situation to be in for any country. So I think, yes, it is good for all countries in South Asia if India's relations with its neighbors become better. And it is bad for all countries in South Asia if India is not able to have good relations with its neighbors. Uh, Canada is playing China America card. Oh, well, I don't know if it's a card because the beneficiary of what has happened so far has been China. Canada has nothing to show. He's not coming back with anything. China, yeah, well, one thing, China has promised to reduce tariffs on canola. Canola is some kind of a crop, and we get canola oil that is used for cooking. Apparently, that's a major export from Canada. And after the Canadians had imposed 100% tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, China had imposed 100% tariffs on canola, and then canola. Now, apparently, Xi Jinping has promised to reduce it to 16% from 100%. So that should definitely help Canada. It's very interesting, that Canada is supposed to be a G7 country, a very advanced country. But if you look at its exports to China, uh, they're all agricultural products. There's nothing, shall we say, manufactured that is from Canada that is being exported to China. All of China's exports are high tech, green energy technology, cars, electric vehicles, solar batteries, etc. Whereas Canada is exporting, agricultural products like canola, etc. So I find that it looks as if Canada is like uh, I can't call it an underdeveloped country, but it's like a rural country. It's trading between a city and a village. And that sounds really strange. Uh, so there's a question here from Pranay. Sir, I got a question. What do you think are the international implications of the Epstein case? Oh, that's. I don't think that the rest of the world really cares about what's happening in the Epstein case. The international implications are that, of course, the role of Israel and the fact, the perception that Epstein was a Mossad agent who was compromising leaders in the West, especially in America, and then was blackmailing them to do whatever Israel wanted. So this is one theory about what Epstein was doing and how he suddenly went from being a math teacher without qualifications to be a math teacher to suddenly become a billionaire or multimillionaire, a very rich man. So the assumption is that either he was being funded by the Israelis or he was blackmailing American rich people. So that's one theory. The other thing is that there has already been one international implication. If you notice that one of the cousins of King Charles, Edward or whatever he was, he lost his royal status because he was exposed by the Epstein files. There was a lot of chit chat about Prime Minister Modi's name being in it and all this. It was not there. It was just one person who is now the oil minister in the BJP government, who was essentially trying to reach out and meet with Epstein on more than a couple of occasions. And then Anil Ambani tried to have some kind of a meeting between Modi and Steve Bannon, also was trying to meet with Modi. So that is how there is, and I don't see more implications unless there's a new bunch of stuff that is released that shows more heads of states coming. The former prime minister of Israel, Ehud Barak, used to stay with Epstein in his apartment on many occasions, but he's not in power, and so I don't know whether it's going to be significant, but it is definitely having an impact on MAGA. Uh, uh, the Epstein case. Very good question, Mature Minds. Even last time you asked some very good questions. Thank you for coming again. In all this chaos, Venezuela, Greenland, Iran, are we not missing Trump's so I'm quite interested normalized ties with North Korea, I guess. Well, that was last time. See, Trump was looking for deals, right? So now he thinks he has a deal in Gaza. And so he has 8 deals. He has brought peace between India and Pakistan. Remember, he said that 80 times. And he's also realized that it's impossible to make a deal in North Korea. So, but his interest in on the eastern side of the Pacific is, of course, his visit to Japan. Don't forget that he went to Japan and uh, and and then he went to South Korea and Busan and met with Xi Jinping. So I think that they're not that focused on the Indo-Pacific itself. Hasn't come to India yet. There's no guarantee that the Quad. India is supposed to be the president of the Quad this year, and nothing has happened. There's no summit, no 2x2, nothing. So we will see whether Trump comes to India next year, or India or Modi is invited to the US to meet with Trump. So he seems to be less interested in the Indo-Pacific at the moment. But as we get closer and closer to the midterm elections, he's going to be more focused on domestic politics. And I think his attempt to take Greenland, he thinks that if he takes Greenland, he might be able to save the midterm from being. But right now, he will lose. The Republican Party will lose. They'll get wiped out, I think, if the elections were to be held now. He did get a positive boost in the Republican side of the electorate with his adventure in Venezuela. Only the Democrats didn't like it. So we will see what happens if his interest continues. I think he will try to once again make an attempt to make a deal with China. He will try that more than one time because he's promised to go to China in April, and then Xi Jinping is supposed to come and meet with him in Mar-a-Lago. So someone is here criticizing. Khan sir always downgrade what Indian government is doing, but only high. But really, once you said because of 50% Indian economy, we're down to 5.5. I hope. Well, yes, I remember that, and I also want to tell you that we don't have India's figures yet. India's annual year runs from April to March. So the India's year will end in March. So by May and June, you will get figures. What you're getting carried away are by the quarterly figures. Just wait and see what the figures show up in probably May is the earliest that you will get for India's this year. The tariffs have been in place only since August and September. So it's just one quarter that the tariffs have been, and people went ahead and bought a lot of things early on to avoid the tariffs. So there was a lot of front loading going on by importers in the US. That's why India had. But if you go and Google, you will find that India's trade deficit has increased in the month of December. So you don't have the data for the quarter October, November, December. You have only until September. That's all you have. So the tariffs were imposed, the 50% on the 1st of August, Alok. So just 2 months, the data that we got with India showing 8.2% growth. And let me also tell you that we also got this notice from IMF saying that it does not trust India's data anymore and gave India a C on its data because they said the data that India is providing is not accurate. Tabrez has a question. Western world democracy is declining. India has a chance to grab it. Democracy is not something that you grab it because someone else has lost. It's not a transferable asset. Whether the democracy becomes stronger or weaker in the West, India can always strengthen its democracy or weaken its democracy. But you're right to some extent that this whole obsession with Hindu-Muslim politics in India, which is the reason why BJP wins election. BJP cannot win elections on good governance and on its achievements. If BJP could win elections on just on its policies basis, then it would not resort to all this bulldozer and this and that rubbish. They are doing that because they have radicalized the population to some extent, and they are using hatred towards Hindu Muslims to win votes. If they can win it based on saying, "Oh, look, we are going at 8.2%," will people just go and vote for them? No. So there's all of these things going on. Somnath ka badla lena hoga and things like that. Now Ajit Doval says we have to take revenge for every invasion. All of this is for the Bengal elections. Uh, uh, I think I addressed your question. You're saying the same thing again, and I think I've already answered your question, Alok. Uh, I don't know. I mean, if America becomes great again, everyone wants to be its ally. And even now, if you notice, India has not done anything to retaliate against America. India has not even said anything against America. It keeps saying its relations are good, we are getting better. Europeans have not dissolved the NATO, they have not withdrawn from NATO. So potentially, legally, they are all obliged to be US allies. Good question. Sunny wants to know sir, do you really collect information from news, or do you have sources? So I'm not a news agency, I'm not a newspaper person. I'm a professor. I study certain things. So I study theories, I study history, but I also follow the news very closely. So the things that I do are three or four. Of course, I follow the news closely. That's one source. Number two, because I'm teaching, like for example, I'm teaching politics of developing nations. So when I went to Sri Lanka and Colombo, I was already talking about theories of modernization, theories of dependencies, teaching my students about different countries and their trajectories towards becoming, like talking about how Singapore became a rich country, how Malaysia is doing phenomenally well, how South Korea and Japan developed. So when I do a show on Japan, all that knowledge that I've accumulated teaching about it comes in handy. And then I also have friends who are in the governments, who are former diplomats, people who are also doing analysis. So, and we talk a lot all the time. So the three or four sources that we have are historical works which have been done and research which is already out there, academic research, then the news which is going on. I read a lot of things. I watch right-wing, left-wing media and other sources, look at and the third thing is that I do my own analysis, but also I consult other experts. So those are the sources on the basis of which I do these shows. What forced Trump not to turn cards in Iran and also share your schedule of going live? So mature minds, the reason I'm going live is because I'm staying at a hotel in Hyderabad, so-called high-tech city. And the speed of the internet is so slow, it's absolutely pathetic. I would have wanted to do this show by recording it and then editing it so that I could insert graphs and data like I normally try to do. But if I did that, then I would have to record this in some software, download it. That takes a long time here, 40 minutes, 4 hours, 8 hours sometimes. And then I have to edit it and then upload it on YouTube, and that is taking all night. So that's very irritating. So I keep looking, and the moment the speed of the internet goes to Mbps 6, 7, right now it's 5. I think because it's the afternoon and many people have left the hotel. So the moment I saw this 5, I said, okay, let me quickly do this German thing before people start coming back, and then the speed of the internet becomes slow here. So I'm going to be traveling to a different city in a couple of days, and if the internet connection there is faster, then I will do. But as long as I'm traveling in South Asia, I will continue to do more live shows and edited shows. But unfortunately, I would try to give at least an hour or two notice in the future. Uh, but but as long as I'm traveling here, I didn't have these problems when I was in Hong Kong and China and in South Korea. In South Korea, the speeds in the hotel were over 150 Mbps, uploading and downloading. In China, they were above 100. In Hong Kong also, it was above 100. I didn't have any of the problems. So you can see that I did live shows and recorded shows also. And I can't do interviews at this slow pace. And when I'm in Delaware, my home, the speed is 400. So I'm missing that. Uh, well, Trump can't run for office again. 2026 election. Right now, if the election is, three things will happen. The Republicans will lose the Senate, they will lose the House, and Trump will get definitely impeached. That is definitely happening if you had elections now. But like I said, if he manages to get Greenland and if the economy improves, he has time. By October, if things begin to look better, then then he might survive and either keep the House or the Senate. The margin in the House is just 2 seats right now, and so if the Republicans lose 2 seats, they're gone. So we'll see. Right now, it looks as if he will lose, but you never know. Politics is such that one terrorist attack and then it's all over. So there are a lot of these things that can go. We call it October surprise before the November elections. Identity politics. So you have their identity politics are studied by different people. Psychologists study it, sociologists study it. But if you're looking for international relations, then a lot of from 1995, say from 2000 to 2010, a lot of people wrote about identity politics from both IR and comparative politics perspective. I have written several articles about identity politics in the US. So some of the places to look at is work done by constructivist scholars. So they are doing reasonably good work. And for them, identity matters because they feel that identity shapes our politics to a great extent. But the majority of political scientists also follow rational choice approach, where they say that it doesn't matter what your identity is, race, ethnicity, or religion. Um, Human beings are rational actors, and so they will make rational decisions. But increasingly, feminists, for example, constructivists, postmodernists, post-structuralists, all of these people believe that in some way or the other, ideas, identities, narratives matter more than rational approaches. No. The answer is straight up no. From 2004 till 2014, under Manmohan Singh, India was averaging more than close to 9% growth. And under Modi, since 2014 till now, India has averaged less than 8. So Modi's average growth rate is less than 1.5% less than Manmohan Singh. But Manmohan Singh was starting when India's economy was very slow, and Modi started with the momentum that Manmohan Singh had. But Modi had two or three problems. One is a self goal, which was demonetization, which hurt India's informal sector tremendously, so much so that it hasn't recovered until now. So the demonetization really devastated the informal sector, small businesses. Uh, etc. And then COVID also had a negative impact. So India's economy suffered tremendously in 2020. I think it was negative 6%. One of the reasons why Modi has got 8%, 7% in 22, 23, 24 now is because of this so-called, it went down and there is a recovery going on from the decline in COVID. And if we take out that year where India lost because of COVID, then you will see that the growth rates under Modi are even more less than what they were under Manmohan Singh. Which question? Oh, what first Trump? So there are 2 or 3 things that are going on. Number one is this clear, I don't think Trump is interested in putting troops on the ground in Iran at all. He's seen what has happened in Iraq. This will be 10 times worse than that. But the US military was very, very clear that they very clearly said this was not a good idea. And see, you tell the military that these are my political goals. This is what I want to achieve through my military means. And the military said, well, what you want to achieve, you're not going to get it using the military. And then there were lots of threats and consequences. And I think a lot of allies, especially the Gulf countries, I think were putting pressure on the US to not take it because Iran was threatening to attack them. And so the US has bases in Qatar and Manama. US has presence in Syria, and all of those bases Iran would try to attack. So, or in retaliation. So I think it became very clear to him that it's going to be a really, really messy thing to do, even ultimately if he achieves to damage Iran significantly, it's going to be very messy and not clean like in Venezuela. In Venezuela, he just kidnapped a couple, but left the same government in place. So there's no regime change in Venezuela. Nothing has changed. He's just putting pressure on this government. So the same government is cooperating with Trump. And so it's very clean, no casualties, nothing. But with Iran, there could be casualties, and then the public will turn against him. So the risks are much more higher for Trump with Iran than the possibility of gain. So I think it's a rational decision not to go forward. Well, Alok Sharma, you're welcome. Yeah, I had dum biryani just last night. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Subscribe to Conversation, like this video, press the bell icon. Don't forget to share this with your socio-political network. And until next time, I'm your host, Muqtadar Khan. Take care. Bye.